Hello and welcome to Creating the Life You Love, How to Live a Spiritual Life in a 3D Reality. I am your host, Valeria Bruno, and this is a space where you will find the tools for your personal and spiritual development, so you can live a fulfilled life in the magnificence of your being. And this is also a space where we can openly talk about science, spirituality, and even go beyond. This is the last interview that is going to close this virtual retreat. And today I really want to go beyond, even beyond spirituality as a concept that the logical mind can grasp, can understand, can accept, can be open to, but until it is heartfelt, felt from inside, it could remain just a concept. So today we are going to fully immerse ourselves in the true and divine essence that we are with my very welcome guest, Karina Shaha. Hello, Karina. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to be in your presence as well.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the audience by reading your bio. But before doing it, I would like to share a few personal words. As Karina has been my mentor, we have been working in one-to-one sessions almost every week for 2 years. So she's the human, not so human being that knows me best. And I'm here to express my gratitude to her as she opened me in a way I couldn't even imagine. And so I'm going now to read her bio. I decided to read the entire bio because it is so much infused with Karina's energy that the audience can attune to her vibration and find itself open to receive her gifts of light. So Karina Shaha, the voice of Grandmother Speaks, is an acclaimed mystic teacher of awakening and ascending consciousness. As a creative conduit of universal energy, her magnetic and powerful presence activates deep chords of wisdom at the heart of humanity's true divine origins. For over 30 years, she has been honored to share blessing practices to those ready to acknowledge the gift of who they truly are. Her radiant, sensitive, and loving awareness inspires us to awaken into the grace of presence that she calls the heart field of enlightenment. Karina's award-winning visionary art, combined with transformative teachings, sacred writings, living light songs, and guided meditative transmissions, offer profound and simultaneous shifts in how to align and harmonize with our true nature. Her deep devotional calling is to immerse humanity in a direct experience of natural divinity through the Immaculate Heart. As she says, it's simple, but not always easy. Sometimes you just need a steady hand and a steady heart to hold you as you learn how to steady yourself. Her 3 near-to-death experiences have shaped the loving essence of her ascended art teachings. Whether it is in private sitting or public gathering, those that have been in Karina's presence, and I can witness, have felt the breath of their own living miracle welcoming them home to the heart of who they truly are, and felt transported into realms of pure bliss. This is why Karina is here today, and I will share a personal experience that I had the first time that I met Karina, because it's my experience and it's one of the most beautiful experiences that I had in life. I had during my lifetime many glimpses of feeling oneness, feeling universal love, feeling unconditional love, but they were lasting seconds, maybe milliseconds. audience. But when I heard Karina for the first time, it was a long-lasting experience. So this is my wish for you in the audience to experience this today, as I did the first time that I heard. So Karina, sorry, thank you for being so patient. That you waited for all this time, but I needed to express in words what my heart expressed by singing. And I have two communities in my audience, one which is already very advanced in the spiritual path, in the awakening path, and the second one that is just opening to spirituality. So it's in the process of looking for answers, looking for guidance, looking for tools to find their own direction in their spiritual awakening. So I want to start by asking you to share a message that you can provide to someone who is just starting out on the journey of awakening and ascension.
Oh my gosh. There's a word, an ancient word called neshima, and it means breath, and it means soul, and it means connection to the higher knowing inside of us. Sometimes we're just going throughout our day, not even paying attention to the simple fact that this breath is living within us. Without it, our life can expire almost instantaneously. But with it, and with our presence with it, and with our capacity to tune in to the power of the breath. But not only neshima means the heart of the breath. It means how we can calm ourselves down, how we can connect into that breath that is the very life force that carries us through in our day-to-day living, but also has an important quality to it, that when we are able to calm ourselves down, relax into who we are, and tune into what I call just this moment of heart presence. It's like the most kindest, most beautiful moment when you connect with someone very deeply. And maybe they put their hand on the back of your back right near your heart. And you just feel that moment of reassurance, like everything's going to be okay and everything already is. That is the moment when you are actually beginning to connect in to your natural presence. Now, with the heart and the breath together, when we begin to just listen deeply into this moment, and when we take our breath from just a place of where we are breathing and we are just being, and maybe throughout our day, we may feel a little overwhelmed by all the things that are happening currently right now is enough for the breath to just go,
Yeah.
because it's so overwhelming. But when we can take a moment to just still ourselves, and if we're alone, and if we really want to, we can even close our eyes. And then we can take that little extra step. What I like to do is just the hands on the heart. Now, the left hand is indicative of what's called the heart line. So it is even having a stronger effect. And the right hand is connected to the brain line. And it also assists us to just, a lot of us are mostly right-handed. And so we have the connection to the brain frequency. And we know that the left and right hemisphere are also interconnected between the left and the right side of the body. But what this does, right in the heart center, and we call this here because there's a physical place called the thymus gland. And the thymus gland tends to supposedly atrophy, but in truth, when it's there, it's in dormancy, just waiting for that moment where we're right here. And with our eyes closed and just with a nice deep breath in, we can actually just say to ourselves, I'm here, or I'm here for you. And I am loved. And you are loved. And taking in that breath of reassurance. It's like saying to that part of yourself that goes through the day not knowing if it's been seen or heard or valued. And when we give that to ourselves, we are signaling to that sweet essence contained in the heart and the very gland that is designed to redistribute some of that beautiful energy through our body to, in a way, awaken. And as we go into that even deeper, we can also feel another field of consciousness that signals to the brain in what we call heart-brain coherence. And it says to the brain, light up both sides and send a signal down. And there's a kind of intelligence that's stored at a very high vibratory frequency. It's like a signal call that's going out into the universe of all divinity, into a higher state of our being. And it's sending something down and saying, I am whole. In a way, I'm holy. I am whole and holy. And in that way, we can send forth our love. I am loving. You are loving. And in that reassurance, we can take in that breath. The key to the word and the breath is the realization is that whatever you're communicating, whatever it is you're saying, it has power. And when we speak that to ourselves and we breathe it back in, the whole physiology of our body, the whole psychology of the frequency of our mind and our personality begins to soften in that field of awareness. And then when those two parts sync up, then we move into the final phase, which is that sound of the heart, the ah. Ah. First half of Om. I am home. Just like the word Om, which is the seed sound of all consciousness, that which forms, informs, dissolves. And there in that space, we realize, I am love, or you are love. And just in those moments, as simple practice, with the breath, with words, with connection to the physical form, and with centering the body and being. A very simple practice that is also incredibly advanced at the same time. I am here. I am loved. I am whole. I am loving. I am home. I am love. And then we take the hands that we had placed on the hearts and we just bring them into prayer pose, which is bringing the two sides of the brain together, sinking in with the heart. And we can just feel the vibration of the Om, because it really does make sense now. Ah is the sound of the heart. O is the sound of the solar plexus. And together is the vibrational field that we feel when we are in a state of deep relaxation, calm, and peace. And so it's really simple, just to take a breath in. It's 3 parts, just like when you breathe in, hold it for a bit, and then breathe it out, releasing and letting go. Life is about that breath, breathing in the vibration, holding it for a moment, and then letting it go. So that would be a really beautiful practice that works whether you're a well-advanced being or whether you're just starting out.
Yes, and I remember in one of our first sessions that you made me breathe through the I am that I am. So pausing, I breathing, am breathing, that was the way that I learned how to center and to be still. So even that one in my remembrance, it's very powerful and it's very easy to do too.
Yeah.
So Karina, you have your own personal wording. I don't know how to call it. You use words that are different, that are coming, of course, from your higher guidance, such as Immaculate Heart and Natural Divinity. I would like for everyone to exactly know what they mean. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so the Immaculate Heart, it's immaculate means untouched, it means intact, it means whole. And so when we speak of the Immaculate Heart, we are speaking of what we call the High Holy Heart. It is the place that is never born and never dies. It's what we would call the eternal nature, the eternal self. And the Immaculate Heart is also associated with, I guess you could say in religious terms, the beginning and the end of a cycle that never ends. And so that's why we associate it with the Alpha and the Omega, where all dimensions meet in that intact state of being, and that intactness, that immaculate nature of the heart. So, just that what we were doing before, that's all, that just tunes us to begin to receive. And a lot of what I'm doing is about harmonizing and attuning, because the great unfoldment of life and being, and also awakening and rising up, is the idea of harmonizing. This is an instrument. And we could just say that the Immaculate Heart is the area where you can really enter that instrument and understand how to tune. The Buddha said that if the instrument is too tight, like if we're too tight, the string will break.
Yeah.
If it's too loose, the instrument won't play. But if it's in just that perfect state of harmony, the instrument will sing, it will play. So the idea of the Immaculate Heart, it's a tuning center of the divine that is in a state of being that is eternal, unbounded, never to die, never to be born. So it's in that eternal state, and it is existent or pre-existent in our field of consciousness. I mean, if you tried to cut up a person and find the Immaculate Heart, you'd be remiss to find anything in there. But there is something in the ancient Egyptian tradition called the Ka, and it's supposed to be a thumb-sized amount of energy, and it's supposed to be golden in nature. At least that's what they say in the mystical teachings, and that its weight is larger in weight, mass, and capacity than the whole universe, and it's stored in each sentient form. So that is the understanding of the Immaculate Heart. Now, what was the other thing that you asked me?
Natural divinity.
Natural divinity. Thank you. So, natural divinity. Just look at that word, natural. We think of things and we go, something that seems miraculous, it's supernatural. The idea of being divine is something that we reserve for saints or holy beings. And so in a way, it's a deconstruction and demystification of the truth of who we are. We are naturally meant to be divine. We already are everything we are seeking. And to understand that the way in which we have to go through this process. When we're born, we are naturally divine already. That's why when you see a little baby, you just like want to go, oh, and you feel that. Or when you see little kittens or puppies, they have this kind of quality that's just filled with sweetness and innocence. That's just so beautiful. And then it takes training the puppy or the cat or the kitty. But in humans, it's like 13 years or more of schooling, and then you go to higher education just to kind of take you away from that natural space of being that's naturally divine and put you over into civilization. Not that I'm saying there's anything right or wrong about it, but if we can come to the realization that it is natural to be powerful, it is natural to have and beautiful and incredible qualities, that natural divinity takes into account the qualities that we imbue or we believe God is. Instead of searching for some God or outside of ourselves, the realization is to awaken and unveil and see the God force, God, Mother, Father source that's already within us. And it's saying to us, it's natural to be who you are. And it's a comforting experience.
Yes, because we could consider it our natural state.
Exactly.
That, yeah, that we maybe forget about
Yes.
because it's nothing ever lost. It's just something to find again. How can we reclaim our natural divinity, find again this immaculate heart in us to regain this state of innocence?
Ah, yes, that's why grandmother says it's simple but not always easy. The steadying hand of being in that vibrational field. Well, there's one thing that's kind of, I call it the weapons of mass distraction. I'm sorry to put down the screen, and we are in this virtual world right now, but sometimes we do need to take time away from the daily activities of what we can do, what we're doing. Time in nature is very essential if you can. If you are not in a world or close by,
Yeah.
then having natural things in your home, plants, water features, the elements are very, very important. And then time in meditation, if you can do it. If you feel like you need to be with a teacher like yourself, Avalaya,
Yes.
or myself, because sometimes you need to be with your instrument that's out of tune. You need to be with some being that is more tuned to help you. There's a thing called entrainment, and I've been in drumming circles, and you'll have the drums that are idle, and you hit one drum skin, and all the other drum skins will vibrate at that same field of consciousness. So it's like we really want to spend time either in energy field of a teacher or in nature. The nature is the greatest teacher as far as I'm concerned. And then spend time with ourselves, reaffirming, taking our attention off of the external functioning of the world and taking our time inward to examine where we are, our beliefs, our understandings of ourselves, our limitations. So that's some of the thoughts I have.
Yes, and this is the way to awaken to our true nature, but not always it's easy to stay true to ourselves. I say this because grandmother sometimes, and we will also say to the audience who is grandmother, sometimes she lovingly said that I was like a crab, one step ahead, forward, and 2 steps back, because we have to learn again how to stay true to ourselves once we found again our true nature. So it's a process. It's a process,
Yeah.
and we should never get discouraged, because you do not know when a real big shift is going to happen. If I may share an experience we had together, it was in the Lions Gate of 2018, so it was 8/8/2018, and I was receiving by grandmother the attuning of the 7 bodies. And I was having wonderful experiences. I saw myself transmuted into a butterfly, then into a flower. So I was so happy for this experience that I was having. And at one point, my body cracked open. And I will never forget that I have this image in my mind, and when the body, the physical body cracked, this huge androgynous being was white, brilliant, came out, and I found myself. I remember I was telling you, I feel me as I've never felt. I really felt myself. And then grandmother since then called me Mihata, was the name that she gave me since then. And so, Karina, who is grandmother?
Ah, yes. Okay, well, grandmother is an aspect of creation. She calls herself the universal oversoul, also the goddess of the white lotus, which is the purest teachings of Shambhala. I was also initiated into that field of what's called the harmonic heart masters as grandmother Alushama. That's my, I guess,
Yes.
Nihata name that was given to you. And I'm sure you have other beautiful spiritual names as well for yourself. Um, so grandmother is both a force of nature in capacity and ability, but she's also an individuated or individualized expression of my higher ascended nature. And she is also just here as a guide and a teacher for the ascension process that humanity is going through. So it's kind of like we're a team that comes together. At times, I almost feel like I'm speaking to Sophia, the goddess of wisdom, but then she seems to also embody all of the different divine feminine and nature, but she's like the grandmother. So sometimes we don't want to take advice from our mothers, like mom, 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 mom. But when a grandmother comes along and she sits you down and she's got this great amount of wisdom and experience, and she's not your mother and she's not telling you what to do, but she's saying, did you notice this? Do you notice that? So there's a kind of a refined point of her acknowledgement that all that she ever sees in any being or humanity is that which is already divine, that which is already, you already are everything. So she's gazing in to us into whatever moment might be happening in humanity. And she's saying, what do you notice? What are you feeling? What are you seeing? What is alive in you right now? And so the energy of grandmother is very much like the grandmotherly energy that we so appreciate, sometimes more than our mothers. And she is like the grandmother. And so she has a kind of power and influence, but it's also soft and it's also very approachable. And that's what a lot of people say about me. At times is like, I feel safe to be in your presence, to open up. And I think that's some of the most powerful gifts of what she offers, her transmissions that I, translate, the experiences that I have. And then she also says when she fully comes into my body, she says the Eloha Elohim, which means the creator forms of the source divine, the lords of light, which represent all the hierarchical frequencies of what we would call the vibrational field. And Lord does not necessarily mean male figure. And then at the top of that is the Lady of Peace. And we know that the Lady of Peace represents the Queen of Heaven, or in some religious terms, the Magdalena or Mary lineage. So I'm not sure if I actually explained grandmother.
Yes, I know her energy very well, but maybe someone in the audience, as I always speak about grandmother, was wondering what energy was. I know that you are the embodiment of this. And another path that we can go through with you during our process together is to meet our Council of Light. Yes. This was for me a very strong experience, because you know that you have your angel, your guide, but sometimes it's hard to expect, because we feel less than we are, to expect to have a council just there for us. So what is the role of a council in our life?
It's similar to what we could even imagine a council that is in our, our physical domain. We have councils that are individual groups of beings that work together in a way, in harmony, hopefully, At least on the higher planes, maybe on the earth plane, we're still working out all the details on that. But in the higher planes, it's the idea that individual aspects of our higher nature or the nature of the divine are working together in different states of consciousness, because sometimes we might have a particular area of our life that requires a certain council formation or member that has that aspect of ourselves overseeing or watching over. And so we also play an active role. We have a seat in the council. And we have a seat in the council because we have guardians that come with our soul. Like there's a main guardian, but then there are guardians that are consistently and continually watching over everything we're doing. Now, they don't interfere. They may be able to intercede, which means through a divine act of your asking, or asking from a state of being where you're in a place of power, sitting on council and saying, there's a particular aspect of my life that I am working through, and I need some support and guidance for that to bring it to its higher level. So once again, a council is a team of higher aspects of our, let's say our etheric, our energy blueprint, our divine nature, that are working in harmony with us to raise us up into the wholeness, into the oneness, into the Godhead or the God force or the Goddess force of who we are.
Yes, and they also provide us with so many gifts.
Yes.
I received from my Council of Light sort of drawings that are very energetic and very vibrant. So it's another tool I can use in my practice, but it just came through them in a moment that because I was then very attached to words, so it was not easy for me to understand the energy behind words, and they said you have to raise your frequency to reach us. So I was desperate, you know perfectly, Karina, and they just came with these drawings. So I was connected to them. It was just that I needed to trust. I needed to surrender to this. In Italian, sorry, surrender, it has a negative meaning. So I say allow. So we prefer to say allow because spiritually surrender is not used. So what is this role of our trusting and allowing?
Yes, I wanted to just do one more point about the councils, because that's a very good thing, which was, yes, they do. They are also a step towards into our fullest nature. So if you could just imagine that all those aspects at the point of ascension would join together and then merge with us. And so they have access to the dimensions that perhaps we don't currently have to access, although some do. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. So the role of trust and surrender is what you were asking in the process? Oh my gosh,
it's so important.
It's everything, because we're building a bridge from our human physical material plane into a higher domain and plane of being. And we really have to, well, we don't have to, but it eases the process, both physically, mentally, emotionally, on all levels, for us to trust. I always like to imagine that we are crossing this divide, and that divide is almost like our the chaos or our fear of our power. And every step we take, the bridge forms underneath. We have to know that there will be something that will catch our foot, or something that will be right there to form right underneath us. But we still have to make this step. We still have to, and we only really have to get halfway, because the being on the other side is also building a bridge towards us. But it's like saying to us, you know, it's like the eternal coach beneath us that's saying, one more step, one more breath, So that it really is, it's really essential. It
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
essential for sure. And talking about bridges, we know that there is what is called in the spiritual community a rainbow bridge that
Yes.
brings us in another dimensional frequency and another vibration, and we crossed it many times together. So I just wanted to share when we were doing this process, what happened to me. I crossed the bridge and I was expecting to find my temple because this is what we were working on. And I found nothingness. I found melting with oneness, not only oneness, but wholeness, disappearing as an individual soul and melting in consciousness. I don't know how to call it. I
Yeah.
just remember the experience I had. So we are in a spiritual path, but we also become multidimensional.
Yes.
What is really being multidimensional in your opinion?
Phew. Yeah. Let me sit with that one because there's levels to that. In what I'm saying right now, I'm actually connecting in to the multidimensional nature of my being, and I'm saying I'm sitting with this. We even call this sitting in council, which is allowing for every aspect or part of the being to inform this conscious being who is individuated in this physicalized presence, but who is also available in many forms or formlessness, and available to commune or communicate with, but not necessarily in the way where you'd pick up a phone or you'd go on a computer, but in a way of deep listening, deep presence, deep awareness, the multidimensional aspect of this. And they're even just discovering it now in the universe, so that there are multiple universes, or what they're calling the omni universes.
Yeah.
And the instruments of science are only just becoming refined enough to actually be able to measure and see what the mystics and the saints and the prophets have been communicating all along. And sometimes they call the universe like a loaf of bread with slices that are meeting one another, but not touching. In the multidimensional awareness of the metaphysical or the divine, everything is layered like a rainbow, and the light is infusing all, and they all gently merge with one another. Let's just imagine an orchestra. So if you've ever been to a symphony, you have all these individual instruments, and then there's this conductor with the music, and we as the being or the God self, the conductor. But when each instrument joins together, there's a multidimensional experience of sound. They can create one sound, but there could be hundreds of instruments doing that all at the same time. And we have that same kind of orchestral experience within ourselves and at a higher level of being. So that's one of the ways that I sort of describe the experience of multidimensionality. Sometimes just the woodwind section or the flutes are playing. Sometimes you'll have, the percussion of the drums going, big kettle drums going. Sometimes you'll have, just an incredible amount of different parts of it. But then when the orchestral movement all goes at the same time, and you feel this humming vibration, sometimes they call it the sound that's so loud that silence is the only thing that comes. That's the experience I have of multidimensionality.
Yes, maybe someone else can have a limited at the beginning experience. So you may connect with, for instance, a star family Karina's beloved, it's a sister, my star sister, a star brother, sorry. And so we tuned together with Gaspar, and we found each other. We were born in Sicily, and we were born almost at the same time. And we found each other again through Karina. So this was one of the point of access, of connection with another soul that was multidimensional, but related to a star family. But for sure we can access different layers of multidimensionality until we reach what Karina feels, that I think is what you can experience at the highest level of multidimensionality.
Yeah, like sometimes you're just learning an instrument, you know, you're just learning how to play
Yes.
one thing, and some beautiful moment comes in, and you have this, oh, like what you said, like you have that, oh, that moment, and you start to feel different sensations, different visual come in, and the higher nature, the chakras line up, the pineal gland opens,
Yeah.
and we begin to see and feel and realize things. Auric fields will arrive. It's like what happened with my 3 near-death experiences. It was just like, oh, whoa, you know, the first time I came back when I was 8, and I saw rainbows around everyone, and I'm like, well, where did they come from? Well, they were always there, but something got tuned in my multidimensionality of that experience. Yeah.
So, Karina, we live in a 3D reality that, if you look at it with judgment, because still there are people in judgment, it can seem very chaotic, very full of grief, confusion. So how can we, in this 3D reality, actualize our fullest potential, find our power, still honoring our deepest calling? How can we reach this steadiness to fully live in a spiritual way in this 3D reality that seems so harsh, look for from outside?
Yes. Yes. Well, first, it's acknowledging the gift of who we are. It's a first realization of our own being and our own nature. It may require us to go in and have to clean up what I like to call like the inner sweep of the temple, clean up our father line, our mother line. What's the connection we have with our mother? What connection do we have like in the lineages of our mother line or our father line? Maybe it relates to early childhood energies. It might even be past lives where we've accumulated trauma in former incarnations. It may just be our just again, like early childhood development, where we've taken on external belief structures from our world around us. It's always on the inner level that we have to clean up and clear up. There's you know, a beautiful prayer, the Ho'oponopono. I'm sure many of your community have heard about that. And it's not just about forgiveness, but it's just about the realization of self-responsibility. It's like, okay, there's a kind of a chaotic mess out in there, but if I clean up this chaotic mess inside of me, I can then contribute a more coherent field that can then again serve as a model or as an example of how we can live a more harmonious life. It always starts on the inner level, and everything is really deriving on the inner level. And so that inner awakening process, it just depends on the individual, what their desires or their interests are in their life. It doesn't mean that they necessarily have to leave their life behind. Some do. It just is the realization, not necessarily of what they're doing, but how they're doing it. So for instance, you may just be mindlessly making a meal, but then all of a sudden you come to this realization that everything is alive with energy and with feeling. And then all of a sudden, the way you make the meal changes the way the food tastes, the way that you work on in your work environment changes the outcome of the way your colleagues or individual projects unfold. So the way in which we conduct our lives begins by the way that we reconcile or come to terms with what is deep within our own being. And that's why sometimes it's essential to be with someone who can guide or assist us. It doesn't always have to be like that, because there's so much beautiful literature available, and you know, we can find that in many different ways. We have to start with ourselves and with the realization that first and foremost, no matter what we've gone through, we deserve to be loved. We deserve to be heard. We deserve to be seen, and we deserve to be valued. But we can't do that and expect that from others and have those expectations outside of us if we're not able to acknowledge and give it to ourselves first. So it can be a very unburdening process. It can be, as you've experienced, a challenging process. It challenges every belief that we have. But in the end, what it brings us to is the doorway of love. And the key is always willingness, because that's where the mysteries lie, behind that doorway of love. And the key is unlocking it, a willingness to look inward, a willingness to suspend our ideas and beliefs about who we are, and a willingness to enter into that space and look around and, like what grandmother says, notice. Do you notice how that area is messy over there or out of place? What's the feeling? What's the energy that's surrounding that? What do you want to do with that? You've got to be able to empower yourself with whatever practice you're doing. It's got to lift you up, and it's got to bring you deeper into your being. So that's what I would suggest.
Yes, and also through your teachings, we learn how to honor and every single present moment, because we live in each present moment that is sacred. So we have to honor each present moment that we are in.
And every experience can be,
Yes,
even the
yes,
harsh experiences can be an amazing gift.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
because everything is something that is empowering us, no matter how we react to it or we live it. Karina, you are a ceremonialist.
Yeah.
What is the power of being in a ceremony?
It's not unlike what you were saying about how every moment is sacred.
Mm.
Like, we have passages where we go through, like, the birth of a child or our birthdays. Sometimes it's a wedding. Sometimes it's a ceremony where we're releasing someone who's, left their body and transitioned. And what I really appreciate doing in ceremony is getting a group of beings to really be in the center of who they are, tuning their vibration, again, because we always speak about the instrument, but what can happen collectively when we gather together. And in my circles, what I teach is that when you're in your heart and you are able to be fully present with where you are, then what opens up in a community or communal gathering is we're able to weave a heart in the center, with each of us being present and contributing to the circle. So it's not a passive experience.
Yes.
People just come and they're like, oh, I had a meditation. Not that there's anything wrong with I had a meditation or I went to a sound bath, but I'm inviting people to be like a pillar.
Yes.
And upholding a very powerful space within themselves and for the communities they serve and the families and the earth. And so when we are in ceremony, individually, we have our different intentions, but when we bring those intentions together, we are able to access a greater power, a greater capacity together. And that's why we have such a desire to want to be with one another and to be with, like hearts.
and like minds together. The ceremonial process, it's not so much the ritual, although that can be beautiful, but it's the intent. It's the intention and how we tune our attention towards the intent or the calling of our being. And I'm always interested about how we can answer the call of our true heart, our true nature.
Yeah, I participate to the circles, so I can share what the depth of what we can feel and especially the experience that you are not there for yourself, but you are really there for the planet, for humanity. So it's a service. I consider it a service. Karina, could you please share your beautiful voice with the audience? I
Yes,
would like for them to hear you sing. Yeah, thank you.
okay, I have my bowls with me here, and this is a part of the ceremonial experience as well.
Yes, please. Yes, we
Yes,
will be your circle.
yes. So when we begin circle, we always we open up a pranic tube, which is like a straw of energy that draws energy up and draws energy down. And I happen to have brought this beautiful little guide right here. It's something from my beloved partner, Gaspar. And this is like the breath expanding and then moving through. And this is called a torus. And this is the energy that we like to experience of the breathing of life, sound, heart, and attuning. And so this is what I kind of imagine that develops in the center of our own being, and it is a natural sacred geometry structure. So I'm going to ask all beings here in this moment, wherever you are, just to center yourself as I begin to play my bowls. And just feel whatever rises up from what I like to call the earth star, the center of our being, or the center of this earth frequency. And just to tune into that moment, this moment now. And feel how the breath rises with the vibrational field. Just as we open up the bottom of the pranic tube, allowing for an intention of pure love, grace, and peace. And also at the top, the crown. We open up the top and the crown to allow for an influx of life and light to descend down. Just as we feel the prana rising and the presence descending, merging into what we call the high holy heart or the immaculate heart, what looks like a perfect figure eight that expands in all directions. Breathing in that essence and presence, I now bring forward sacred sound.
Ramadando Sadasivanam Atuatima Dadatima Sashe Janudua Muktamati
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. This was really moving. And sorry, I felt the presence of the masters. I don't know who they were, but I felt really surrounded by a strong divine masculine energy, if I may say, and then also divine feminine, but the divine masculine energy for me was more powerful. And I think that is important right now because we need action we need this nurturing energy, but we also need to step into our action with our divine masculine energy. I'm still a little spacey. Karina, I know that you have a free gift for the audience. Could you please share?
Yes, I'm going to be offering an Omega Point transmission, and it's working with all the Omega Point is something that has been gifted to me over the last few months, and it's where all the dimensions meet. And this transmission, I'm working on it right now, and it's going to be both visual and both sound activated at the same time. And so it's something that people can just allow themselves. I call it like a saturation and a deepening of self and source. So it will combine my music and my art. And I'm really looking forward to being able to share that with individuals. And it's something that just really goes so deep into the being, like right into the very fabric of your consciousness. And this Omega Point transmission, it wherever you are in your life, it will meet you, because all the dimensions meet at that place, and will deliver a gift, and will deliver a deeper message and understanding.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is wonderful for me too, because I'm new to it. Karina, I would like to end this virtual retreat with a message coming from Grandmother, from the Elohim, from you, from the depth of your being, just a message of hope for this planet and humanity that is so much in grief right now.
Okay.
Dear beloved beings, just know at this time of great transition, in which all of the shift is coming to the surface, and that every part of humanity at this point in its journey, including your life, is being touched by these moments where we have to take this kind of global time out to really tune in to the higher frequency and the more refined frequency of a new time dimension. A timelessness has occurred in these moments of what we call timeouts or rest periods, where at certain locations on the planet, depending on what is happening with different areas of consciousness and different periods in which we are being asked to give up some aspects of our day-to-day life. Now, it may seem like it's being imposed upon us, but there is a higher order involved and a deeper awareness in this attuning as well. So in a way, peer through the circumstances, almost as if you had on what we would call God's goggles, and looking through and seeing that there are interconnections taking place right now. Perhaps you are meeting beings that you would not normally have met, people, places, and circumstances. The gifts out of this kind of imposed retreat, so to speak, it also has brought up some of the deepest insecurities that one could experience. It's like it's calling to us to reach deep down into that well of presence and power and the availability of it. It's also asking us to connect to those that we love and new and unique ways. It's opening up what we call the inner net, which is different than the internet. It's showing us just how deeply connected we really are, and how that we are all working in a common framework and reality, and that it's affecting many across many levels of strata of society. It's also shedding light on the inequities. It's shedding light on the most vulnerable, and how we can dig down deep and help lift up that vibrational field. Where is that vulnerability lying within us? Where is that those power struggles lying within us? Where is that those fears and doubts that are being stirred up in the spin cycle of different media outlets? How has that affected us, and how can we release that frequency out of our body and being, come back to the nature of who we truly are, come back to the awareness that all is being tuned into a higher order of being, that you are not alone, that there are many fields of consciousness, including those that would be called the star brothers and star sisters, who are witnessing and watching over this. Know that in this moment, as you breathe into your fullest, what we call the shining or effulgent heart, you breathe into this. As they say, this too shall pass, but this shall be remembered. It shall be remembered because it is not to find the rescuer outside or the leader outside of us, but the being within us, the strength, the courage, the forbearance, the capacity that is lining us all up into a higher and more profound awareness state of being. Build from this foundation. Let go of the concerns that you have for your well-being. Know that when you open up the gates of this powerful awareness, that money, resources, awarenesses, ways and being will come through. Open up and allow for this that is to enter into your field. It's also saying to us to remove and lift off the burdens. We call this a divine dispensation. It's an awareness that we've been carrying all of this around for far too long. We are not beasts of burdens. We are angelos. We are divine messengers, and we must choose consciously to lift up these burdens, hand them over to the higher nature, the higher self, the God force, to work through for us, dissolving and melting any and all of the limitations and barriers within ourselves, restoring us, returning us, attuning us. Your health is determined by the quality of the well-being that you allow to enter in your being through foods, nutrition, but also through the nutritional, loving presence that creates as much alkalinity as the kinds and qualities of foods and activities you do. So spend time with your heart and know that you are loved. Loved beyond all being, beyond all reason. There is this heart that shines, and this heart is sent forth to thee now. Know that the love in the highest and the deepest is always available to us, but we have to make the gesture to open the heart and the door and the gateway of this divine love to enter into our lives. Thank you. So be it. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you. Thank you. So I will just close this virtual retreat by saying that everything is possible if you believe in it and if you allow it to be. So thank you, Karina, so much. It has been for sure very empowering for the audience. And I thank you, the audience that have been following the retreat. So bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Karina. Bye-bye.